Hey guys, so this time around, I'm going to introduce a couple more concepts, and we're going to turn our synthesizer into a multi-oscillator synthesizer, so that's pretty cool. Right now we only have a one wave oscillator, which is cool, and we can, as we've gone over before, we can switch between them um, and we introduced a filter. Uh, but today I'm going to show you how to use a feature that we haven't actually. I touched on it in the intro video, but today we're actually going to use them, the macros, sort of the sub levels, and a good way of organizing stuff in Reaktor. Uh, so actually, that's the first thing I'm going to do is this. I'm not actually going to be using this macro right now, but I am going to use it's. I found it to be a very handy housekeeping tool. So I'm going to make a macro and go. You just right click, go down to macro, and click on empty, new. We're going to make a new empty macro, and we're just going to call. I'm just going to call it stuff. You can call it whatever you want. uh, but anyway, I'm going to take this and I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to click and I'm going to select multiple things that I want to put away. And I'm just going to, and this one. So these four things. And then I'm going to Control X, or actually I'll just show you here. I'm just going to cut the selection, right click, cut selection, take all that out, and I'm going to put it in stuff, and I'm just going to paste it here. So yes, I'm getting rid of the filter for now, but don't worry, it'll come back. But we'll show you how to implement that even better than how I had it before. So, okay, so now I'm just going to connect these outputs again to how they were before. So this is basically, we're back to an oscillator. We're back to a synthesizer without a filter. Now we're going to actually use macros. Actually, before I even do that, one thing that we're going to need to do, since we're going to have multiple oscillators, is we might not want to turn them all on at the same time. So it took me a little while to figure out how to do this, but I finally ran into a way that works, which was I simply right-click, go down to Math, go to Built-in Module Math, and you pick a constant, and you just set the value of the constant to 0. And then you click and drag, and then you hold Command, and you simply input that value into the top, and now you have a new option. And we'll just call this off, because that's basically what it means. So when we play it, you go through our waveforms, and then you come to off, and it just flips right off. Don't give it a value other than 0, because I've actually discovered that you can harmfully pop your speakers if you put anything above 0 or less than 0 as the value. So make sure you make a constant, set it to 0, and then connect it. And messing around with these sound designer programs in general, it's always the safe thing when you're experimenting with new things. Make sure you turn the volume way down or off when you connect things for the first time, and then slowly turn them up. If you have no idea what's going to happen, that is especially what I recommend, because otherwise you can damage your ears and or your speakers, and that's just not good. So anyway, enough with my little lecture on health and safety. Okay, so back to macros, finally. So we have one oscillator picker up here, but we're obviously going to want more, right? So I'm just going to make another macro. First, I'm going to get this thing out of the way. That'd probably be a good plan for now. And we're going to need more room over here, so let's move this over. Okay, so click. Okay, so let's make a new macro. Go down to macro, new, empty. And again, we're going to get it into the macro, we're going to double click, and we're going to have a blank slate. But actually, we're going to need to go back out here. So just double click anywhere on a blank slate to move up a level. And we're going to take the things that are relevant to our oscillator, which are the three oscillators, obviously, themselves. This value, and waveform. And I'm selecting all of these by holding Shift and clicking as I'm holding Shift to multiple select. And then I'm just going to right click, cut the selection. Yep, I'm cutting it. And then we're just going to go into the macro, paste it all there. So, okay, now you're wondering, well, how the heck does information get into the macro? You know, I'm dragging over here and nothing's happening. Well, it's exactly what we've already learned and used many times. Hold Command and it'll create an input for you. And so that's our gate input. We're also going to want no pitch input, right? Yes. So I'm just going to take the time to rename these P and A so that things will look nice when we're lining them up. And when we go into here, oh look, it created our it created our inputs for us. So now we have the pitch, and we're just going to drag these over to the pitch inputs. It's as simple as that. And the same with the amplitude inputs, or the gate inputs. And then, if you look out here again, you notice, well, okay, what about output? Well, I'm going to show you another way to do this. You could do it this way, where you do it backwards. You hold from the receiving, you click and drag from the receiving input, and you hold Command, and then it'll automatically give you an output. But another way you can do this is if you go into your macro, if you'd rather work like inside the macro as much as you can without having to go outside of it, then you just go inside your macro, right click, built-in module, terminal, output, and it does the exact same thing. And we're just going to take our oscillator and we're going to make it go out, or our waveform switcher, we're going to make it go out, and then we're going to take this and we're going to put it out to our output. And let's just rename this oscillator 1 so that we know what it is. And if you look up in our panel, it's looking good. We got our little oscillator 1 here, and now we're gonna go. Now let's try a note. Oh, not working. What are we missing here? I have it switched to off. That's why. So switch it to a oscillator. So it's working just fine, and make sure everything's working. I know from software development experience that it's always a very wise idea to test everything before you put it out there. And in fact, in this series, I made mistakes that I had to go back and correct. So, yeah. There you go. So we have one oscillator. Woohoo! Now we're going to need 2 more, right? Let's make it a 3 oscillator machine. Okay. So, actually, before we do that, let's take our filter and let's actually let's take this, let's cut it, and let's just go back. Let's get rid of this thing. We don't need it anymore. Let's go into oscillator, And let's put the filter on the output of just this this individual oscillator here. So let's see, what are we gonna need to do? So I guess pretty straightforward. We're just gonna delete that, and we're gonna take it in. Oh, whoops! I deleted the import, so I'm just gonna undo, delete that, and we're gonna go into the filter and out to our little output, and I'm also going to add another little bit of functionality to the filter here. And we may, I just set a constant for the resonance, but you might not always want resonance, so instead of having to manually go in and change the constant, let's just make that a knob. And we'll just delete that, go into panel, make a new knob, and we're just going to call it res. And input it there, and it looks like the maximum value is 1, but again, like I said, you don't even want it to go up to 1, so we're just going to call it 0.99, and we'll set it out to the resonance. So now we have manual control over our resonance as well. Yeah, so that's looking good. So we got our filter, and if you really wanted to be super organized, you'd put the filter related stuff in its own macro, so it'd have like a box within this box, and you'd look really super organized. But this will work for now, I think, won't it? So you got your filter, and you can set the resonance for the filter. Oops, new mistake. When you're make sure you're out of the wrench mode here, and then you can manipulate the knobs. We'll set some better values for this filter so it's not so choppy as well. But see what happened when I brought it up that high? It was like, wee! Yeah, that's why you don't want the resonance to be too high. I should probably even put it lower than 0.99. Let's put it like 0.85 to be really safe. So you notice it adds a little more like wee and more of a nasally sound. But you can turn that off completely by simply setting the resonance to 0. And there you go. Okay, so yeah, we got an oscillator, we got one filter. Now let's duplicate these. And let's make a couple more. So what I just did there was I just copied and pasted, this macro. And now I'm just going to rename these to oscillator 2, oscillator 3. Okay. Then we're going to take our tool, we're going to move these or get them organized. We are running out of screen real estate here. So I'm going to go up into this corner, and I'm going to switch to panel view only real quick and just drag this stuff down. That's looking pretty good. Okay, so yeah, that was pretty easy, wasn't it? And now I guess we'll go back into our dual mode view thing. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we got 2 more oscillators in there, but they're not connected to our audio circuit at all. So let's make that happen. To do that, we're just going to take the note pitch, and we're just going to set it to go to all of them. And our gate output, we're just going to set that to these 2 as well. And okay, so now we got our inputs set, right? I mean, you're only going going to hear one oscillator at this point, but okay, now here's a funny conundrum. Well, what about our output? So you'd think logically you could just take this and you could just drag it over, hold down Command or Control if you're on Windows, and just kind of input stuff like that, right? Well, let's see what happens. That doesn't sound exactly how I was envisioning, is it? It's actually what's happening is it's, especially I think we have the same waveform selected, so it's actually canceling itself out because of phasing, I think is what's actually causing it, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I think it's phasing issues is causing the two oscillators, because they're starting at the exact same time, or maybe even just a little bit off, and so I don't actually really know the reason, but multiplication of the signals does not work. Okay, so well, that's a bummer. Well, how are we going to get multiple outputs then from our different oscillators? Well, the answer is we're going to need another math module here. If you just go to your modules, math, and we're going to add, go up to the top here, click add, and instead of multiplying all the signals together, we're just going to add them together. So we're just going to go that signal plus that signal, and then we're going to do our command drag trick here, that signal, and we're going to put it all into that one. So there you go. Now it should work as we expect it. Let's first turn these off and then turn them on to see the true effect that they have. Let's see. Turn this one on. So we got a working filter for this one. We can freely switch between. Okay, so let's make this one a saw wave. Kind of a bassy saw wave maybe. And then let's or a mid-range saw wave or whatever that is. Then let's fire up a triangle wave and see what that does. You can't really hear it, but it's there. It adds some. We can make it the bassy thing, and it'll add some low, bassy information. Yeah, you can notice it there when I turn the resonance up. It's like sounds a little bit deeper. And then if we go down to our third oscillator, let's make that a square wave. So now, wow, that's a really full sound we're getting out of that. So yeah, let's add some high information to that. Add a little bit of resonance maybe. I don't even know what that sounds like. It sounds like we made something cool and new, right? So yeah, there you go. That is basically how you. So we have a decent little synth here. We have an amp. Let's just make sure that's connected correctly. Oops. Yeah. So we have an envelope that controls all three. An amplitude envelope that controls all three of the oscillators. Needless to say, if you wanted to get fancy, you can make an amp envelope for each individual one if you want to. Just take this, copy and paste it, put it in each module individually, or just have separate ones out here and send them each to their own amplitude input. And yeah, so we got some basic functionality in our master fader, of course. Now, I think in the next few tutorials, I'm probably just going to go over uh, how to, I don't know, add things like chorus effect, detuning functionality to the oscillator so that they're off tune just a little bit to make the sound feel, bigger. We might add saturators to make it sound a little warmer. We'll do things that add some layers that make it sound more than just a synth that you made in your bedroom, which I am actually making in my bedroom right now. So, yeah, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.